Hi, my name is Sabrina and this is my persuasive speech. I want to talk to you today about the disease of addiction. Addiction affects many people in many ways and hurts many lives. I want to gear this speech towards people who suffer from addiction, family members of people who are addicts, children who want to learn about addiction and stay away from addiction. Basically, anyone can learn from this video, and I would like to persuade people to realize that there is a solution and that you can overcome the disease of addiction and you can find recovery. First, I want to tell you about who an addict is. An addict is someone whose life is controlled by drugs or alcohol. And addicts are in the grip of a continuing and progressive illness whose ends tend to always be the same: jails, institutions, or death. And you can find more information about who an addict is in this book, which is the Narcotics Anonymous Basic Text. And I want to tell you a little bit about the effects of a couple of different drugs I chose to talk about. For one, we have crystal meth. Crystal meth is a highly addictive drug. It has many physical and emotional effects. It causes depression, drug-related psychosis. It can cause brain damage. It can cause you to have extreme paranoia, hallucinations. If it's taken at a prolonged period of time, it can cause muscle deterioration. And this muscle breakdown can lead to kidney damage or even kidney failure. And also crystal meth can cause death, which can be due to a stroke, cardiac arrest, and even hypothermia because of the elevated body temperature. And a second drug I want to tell you about is ecstasy. Ecstasy is one of the most common drugs sold on the streets. Many teenagers and adolescents have been taken to the emergency room due to taking ecstasy. Ecstasy can kill. It has many of the same effects as crystal meth. It can leave you with permanent brain damage. It can harm your liver, your kidneys, and your heart. Basically, like I said before, it can kill. Next, I want to tell you about my own personal experience with addiction. I've suffered with addiction since I was about 15, 16 years old, and I have been to rehab twice. The second time was about 2 years ago when I went to rehab, and I finally started to learn about how to open my mind, become willing, and use honesty. And by the way, I forgot to mention that the crystal meth information came from aboutchemistry.com, and it was crystal meth facts, and the information from about the ecstasy came from kidshealth.org. What kids need to know about drugs. And back to my personal experience. I apologize for that. My personal experience also deals with how I ended up in a psychiatric ward. I had several arrests and went to jail several times. I almost ended up in prison. But like I said, the second time I went to rehab, I learned about the program of Narcotics Anonymous. And I decided to get serious and listen to the suggestions made. Narcotics Anonymous suggests that you attend meetings regularly. You get yourself a sponsor. And you learn how to work the steps, which this is a poster of the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. And this over here is a poster of the 12 traditions of Narcotics Anonymous. And I personally think the third tradition is the most important because it tells us that the only requirement for membership is the desire to stop using. You can read more about the traditions and the steps in this book, It Works, How, and Why. It's another book made from by the people of Narcotics Anonymous, made at the World. One more important thing is that you find a sponsor. A sponsor is someone you can relate to, someone who has similar stories and experiences, someone that you can go through the steps in a written format. They have what goes with this book. They have a workbook that would help you to go through each step in a written form And when you get your sponsor, you need to go over these steps with them, and it will help relieve a bunch of the emotional turmoil from the disease of addiction. And as a conclusion to the disease of addiction, I want to read one of the most important things that we read on a regular basis at every meeting, because it gives hope, and it's called "We Do Recover" from chapter 8 of the basic text. When at the end of the road we find that we can no longer function as a human being, either with or without drugs, we all face the same dilemma. What is there left to do? There seems to be this alternative: either go on as best we can to bitter ends, jails, institutions, or death, or find a new way to live. In years gone by, very few addicts ever had this last choice. Those who are addicted today are more fortunate. For the first time in man's entire history, a simple way has been proving itself in the lives of many addicts. It is available to us all. This is a simple, spiritual, not religious program known as Narcotics Anonymous. And I want to thank you for listening.